Welcome to Down Home Delicious. I'm Chef Suzanne, Executive Chef for the Appleton Area School District with Chartwell's K-12, and I'm so excited to have you come in my kitchen today. This is the first of what I hope to be many cooking demonstrations concentrating on comfort food. And I kind of think as comfort food as my wheelhouse. I grew up in the South, and so when I think of comfort food, I think of home. And comfort food essentially means foods that evoke feelings, emotions, sentimentality. So we're going to be taking a road trip across the United States over the series of videos that we're doing, and we're starting in the South. Since I said that is my wheelhouse, you can see the South, and there's two little pinpoints up on that map. One is Mobile, Alabama, which I've lived most of my life and where my family is all from, and Williamsburg, Virginia, which is where I was born. So from Williamsburg, Virginia down to the Gulf Coast, we're going to be covering a lot of great recipes. And we're starting with recipes that are simple, so ingredients that are commonly found in everybody's pantry or everybody's freezer or refrigerator, things that you can find very easily at the grocery store. And the recipe that I chose to do first is chicken pot pie. And to me, that just screams comfort food. So every time we do a video, we're going to be concentrating on a key word or phrase to learn something new about being in the kitchen. And today's phrase is mise en place. Mise en place literally means everything in its place in French. And you'll see as we go along with all of these videos that French vocabulary is a big part of the culinary world and cooking. So we're going to learn some French as well as learning some cooking. So the mise en place, everything in its place, the reason that is so important in the kitchen is because it keeps us focused and it keeps us organized and it makes our cooking go by really quickly. So you can see our ingredients for a chicken pot pie all lined up here today. We have unsalted butter, and I always use unsalted butter in recipes unless the recipe specifically calls for salted. We have an onion, and we're going to talk about knife skills in just a minute. We're going to dice an onion. We have AP flour, all-purpose flour, which is the most common flour that you use in cooking. We have some salt, we have pepper, I have some chicken stock, some whole milk, some diced rotisserie chicken. And rotisserie chicken, nowadays you can find them at all the grocery stores. And if you want to do your own chicken and bake it, that's great, but it's really not any more expensive to buy a already done rotisserie chicken in the grocery store. And this recipe calls for 2.5 cups of diced chicken, and the chicken that I got at the grocery store had made 5 cups of diced chicken, so now I have extra diced chicken that I can put in the freezer for the next pot pie I do. I have peas and carrots, and these were frozen peas and carrots already diced up. Again, if you have fresh at home, I would certainly use them. And then we have pre-made pie crusts that are rolled up, and you can find these store brand or Pillsbury, any number of different brands, and they're great. They work really well for doing quick home cooking. And then you'll see I have all the utensils that I need today, and I have my induction burner, my stainless pan, my knife, so we're all set to go. Now, chicken pot pie is a super easy recipe, but it doesn't taste like it's inexpensive or super easy. It tastes delicious. So we're gonna start with our butter. We're gonna put that in our pan that I've already got warming. You'll may be able to start to hear it sizzle. We're gonna let that butter just cook down. I'm gonna turn it down to low while it starts to cook down, and I'm gonna cut up my onion. Now we only need about 1/3 cup of diced onion for this recipe. So this is a washed onion, and it was already peeled, and what I've done is I've just chopped off the root end, but we don't want to get rid of that because that keeps the onion together when you start to dice so it doesn't go everywhere. And then we're just going to cut from the stem, the root, down to the top through to get a half. And this is a super easy way to dice an onion. Okay, so we have our onion. I've cut it in half from the root end down to the top, and again, our root is kept together so it doesn't go everywhere when I start cutting. Now, when you look at an onion, it has little lines that are naturally evenly spaced. So you can use those lines as guides for dicing. We're gonna do a fairly large dice for this recipe, and we're gonna make sure that our pieces are all the same size. So using that as a guide, I'm gonna just cut through with my knife, using the lines as a guide and keeping the same distance. This is about 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to keep following through to the other side of the onion. You'll notice that I'm not cutting through the root so that my onion stays intact. So now I've got all these nice little evenly spaced cuts, and then we're going to use the same measure, again about 1/2 inch, and just go straight down through my onion. And I can use my hand as a guide to nest up against the onion, just like that, and get all these nice little really close to even pieces. So now we've got our beautifully diced onion ready to go. Our butter is almost melted. So just gonna make sure that, get my temperature back up just a little bit. I don't know if you can see, but it's melted. The butter's nicely melted. And we're gonna go ahead and put our onions in. Well, you're gonna let them soften for probably about 2 minutes. You don't need to really cook them. They'll cook when you bake them in the oven with your pot pie all assembled. So the main thing you wanna do is get them heated up. And this is the first step to, essentially we're making a roux, only we've got onions in it. And when we make a roux, it's a thickening agent. And what that does is it helps to thicken our liquid and pulls the recipe together, so as it bakes, it gets even thicker, and then you've got this yummy, ooey gooey, hot center that makes everybody happy. Now, I use all kinds of different cooking vessels for puff pastries, shepherd's pies, apple pies, different shapes and sizes. You don't always have to go with a round or square or whatever. The main thing with this recipe, it makes 2 quarts of the filling, so you want a 2-quart vessel. This is a 2-quart casserole, and so we're gonna use this for a little different look. I've got some extra AP flour here to sprinkle on my cutting board, just so that my dough doesn't stick. Okay, and I've got a cookie cutter because I want to do some nice shapes on top of my pot pie. So we're going to just roll out, and you want to be sure that you've thawed your dough out overnight in the refrigerator if you've had it in the freezer. These freeze really, really well, and I like to keep frozen pie crust and frozen puff pastry all the time in my refrigerator at home because I can use them so many different ways. Okay, so just flatten it out, and then we're going to sprinkle a little bit more flour on top, and we're going to roll it out. Now obviously this is a round crust, and I'm using a square, so we're just going to work with it. Create more of a square shape. The other thing I like about comfort food, especially rustic dishes like chicken pot pie or shepherd's pie, is that it's very forgiving. People don't really know what you wanted it to look like, so be creative and have fun with it. And if it's, you know, sometimes things go awry, they didn't know that your intention wasn't for it to be that way. So, okay, we're gonna take our vessel and we're gonna put our dough inside. And I just want it large enough so that it overhangs, so that I can create a crust. And you'll see that the edges are covered. now we have our beautiful chicken pot pie. Obviously the one I did ahead, I did in a round pie plate, and I think it looks beautiful either way. And you can see how nicely the crimping browns around the edges. This needs to bake in the oven for about 45 minutes, well, 35 to 45 minutes. You need to keep an eye on it. If it starts to get too brown too quickly, you're gonna wanna cover it loosely with foil and continue to cook it in a 425-degree oven until it is nicely brown. The filling will only get a little bit thicker as you cook it, but you don't wanna overdo your crust. So let's cut this and see what it looks like. There you have it, chicken pot pie from the South. I hope you'll join us again really soon when we visit the South again. And I think next time we might even try deviled eggs or a comfort food like shepherd's pie. If you would like to see more, or if you have ideas of things you'd like to ask questions about, please let us know. We'd like to be creating and giving videos that you want to see. So until next time, thanks again. I'm Chef Suzanne. Take care.